Good evening and thank you for joining us. The Thunder Bay Police Services Board says it has placed Chief J.P. Levesque on administrative suspension.
The move came following an emergency meeting of the board this morning to review the criminal code charges laid against Levesque earlier this week. The OPP laid charges of breach of trust and obstruction of justice on Tuesday, following a 5-month-long investigation undertaken at the request of the RCMP. Court documents indicate the charges stemmed from the alleged disclosure of confidential information concerning Mayor Keith Hobbs. The board says during the suspension, Levesque will not be allowed to exercise any of the powers vested in him as chief. The suspension will remain in effect until final disposition of the charges against him. Levesque is scheduled to appear in court on June 13th, and his lawyer says he's looking forward to the opportunity to defend himself against the allegations.
Ontario's Independent Police Review Director says there will not be any delays with his systemic review of the Thunder Bay Police Service despite the charges against Chief Levesque and the 2 new drowning cases for his office to look into. OIPRD Director Jerry McNally launched his probe in the fall due to complaints from First Nations leaders about the police force handling the 2015 drowning death of 41-year-old Stacey DeBungy. McNally says he'll be including the police files for the recent deaths of 17-year-old Tammy Kiash and 14-year-old Josiah Begg into his overall review. But he says that won't push back the completion date for his report, which is expected to be submitted in the fall. McNally says he also hopes to continue his dealings with Levesque despite the chief's suspension and court proceedings.
It might be difficult for me to have an interview now with the chief, but will not preclude me from interviewing and meeting with the rest of the executive, the current deputy chief, and anyone else from the police service who would talk to me. In regards to the chief, I am going to reach out to Chief Levesque to see if he will continue to volunteer to talk to me. He indicated he was going to talk to me before this incident occurred, and I'm going to reach out to see if he will still do that.
Meanwhile, McNally also has a pair of police conduct investigations that are nearly complete. He says his final report into some controversial Facebook posts by several city police officers should be submitted sometime in June, and his probe into how the DeBungy investigation was handled should be complete soon after that.
Well, given that string of controversies swirling around the police force at this time, some are wondering whether public trust has been shaken. We sent a camera crew out today to find out if people's opinions about the Thunder Bay Police Service have changed.
It definitely has impacted me because, I'm half OG Cree, and it saddens me to hear like all of the murders that have been going on and that there's not too much action actually happening.
The drownings and stuff like that, I don't think they've been really handling the cases at a standard that everybody really thinks that they should be doing. And also with the now the chief's under the investigating and investigations and stuff like that. Well, it's not very good for the police themselves.
This is like 2 kids on the playground who both saying, hey, I'm going to go to the principal, I'm going to tell on you. And that's just the way our mayor is acting. And that's just the way the police chief, I think, is underhandedly probably acting, is I'm going to get you or you're going to get me.
The publicity they've been getting is unfair and unjust. So we should be proud that they found, it's a tragedy that a young person was lost. Yeah. But our police department did the best they can, and they pulled all the resources that they can.
The service is just as good as it was in the past. I don't have too many issues or problems with them at all. They don't bother me. I don't bother them. I'm as happy as anything.
It seems that they're not really taking a lot of the issues at hand that have been happening lately with the kids in the river seriously enough. I don't think there's been enough resources or enough investigation gone into it.
Given my skin tone and given my privileges that I've had, I don't really have complaints. But my observations from what I see from other people and the stories I hear, it's hard for people to make that kind of stuff up. So I do think there are some different training things and whatnot that need to happen, but it's not just the police alone. We need to do it community-wide.
The jury has reached a pair of verdicts in the murder trial for Monica Spence and Daniel DeBossier. Just before 6 o'clock this evening, the jury found Spence guilty of manslaughter and DeBossier guilty of second-degree murder in the death of 62-year-old Richard Spence. The victim's body was found in his apartment on Seacourt Street in December of 2014. The judge is expected to announce sentencing sometime next week. We'll have more details on this story on tonight's Late Edition.
Thunder Bay police are investigating a possible abduction attempt on the city's south side yesterday morning. A report was filed by a woman who states she was walking on Syndicate Avenue near Isabella Street when the incident occurred. The two suspects were in a vehicle described as blue or greenish newer model Toyota Sequoia with dark tinted windows. The men are described as black, tall and thin, and they spoke with a strong accent. Constable Julie Tilbury describes what happened.
Officers took a report of a 38-year-old female who said she was walking down Syndicate Avenue, approximately around the Isabel Street area, where she was approached by a vehicle and offered a ride. She refused, and shortly thereafter, one of the males grabbed her, and she was able to break free and run to a friend's house in the area. And more importantly, if anyone in that area of Syndicate Avenue between Arthur Street and Wall Street may have some video images that would go out onto the streets where we could maybe identify the vehicle that was given out for location.
Anyone who's seen that vehicle or the two men described are asked to contact City Police.
A meeting organized by the Chamber of Commerce saw some strong opinions and concerns about the proposed truck route for Thunder Bay. A group of business owners and city staff gathered for the meeting at the Oliver Road Community Centre this morning. Molly Fromer has more.
You're way down the road with this bylaw, and now you're asking City Council to get educated by these people today.
Around 60 people gathered at the Oliver Road Community Centre as the business community made their opinions clear and asked questions about the proposed truck route.
Do we have to use this truck route, or can we take a direct route?
President of Chamber of Commerce, Charlotte Robinson, says the city officials here probably learned some things that they had not considered. She's hopeful that they will make some changes to what's being proposed.
I think they need to really sort of take a broader look at some of the issues that were raised today about specific areas that are really not well served by the current designated route.
My main concern was 102 and Arthur Street. It's been like that for years. Now they want to change it. So now we're going to be a city in the country of Canada that's now going to be telling people from all over Canada where you can only go in our city to get through it. And that part I don't like. I think that they're almost being the bully in the park sort of things.
I think their bylaw that they have written up will probably be amended quite intensely.
There is zero doubt that this bylaw is unenforceable.
Truckers and businesses in the city are concerned the proposed truck route changes could impact the businesses and their customers, which in the end affects their costs. Traffic technologist with the City of Thunder Bay, Ryan Love, says this meeting went as he expected it to go, and adds that they will take a look at what was said and see if they will present the truck route bylaw as is or modify it in any way.
I don't believe it will increase truck traffic, tenfold or anything like that on any specific corridor. Based on, what we've heard today, yeah, there could be some more routes going into a certain area, whether it's to north or south, or the concern we did hear today was from the west. There's really only one access now is what we're looking at.
Now that the business community had their say, city officials want to see what the general public have to say about the truck route bylaw. The open house will be on May 31st from 4 until 6 here at the Oliver Road Community Centre. Molly Fromer, TPT News.
Thunder Bay homeowners will find out on Monday evening how much of the city tax levy increase will fall on them. City staff have prepared tax policy options for council, and they're recommending a plan that sets the residential tax increase at 3.48%. Tax policy determines how much is collected from each property class as a whole. City staff have presented 3 options for review. The first keeps ratios as they were last year with minor changes due to new provincial laws. The second is aimed at minimizing recent property reassessments, but would result in tax levy increases of more than 10% for the industrial class. And the third option, recommended by staff, is an adjustment to option 2. That large industrial shift would spread out across other sectors. However, provincial restrictions mean the commercial class will be protected from the worst of it.
There are restrictions on the assessment-related increases. There's restrictions that the province has implemented on the amount of tax levy increase that can be borne by the commercial property class. And because of that, the increase that the commercial properties will see is 0.94% compared to residential being 3.48%.
The industrial tax levy increase would be set at 3.48% if staff's recommended ratio is approved. The tax policy report goes to council on Monday.
Some residents in West Fort are crying foul over a city plan to sell off some neighborhood parkettes. Homeowners on Holly Crescent and Thistle Crescent have enjoyed the use of those green spaces for decades, but the city says those parks are surplus land and ready to sell to developers. Xiaoli Li has more.
It's not the first time for sale notifications have gone up on Holly and Thistle Crescent. City staff have identified lots on both streets as ripe for potential residential development. But local residents are upset and say the green space was promised to residents when they moved in.
When the houses were first built here, the people who moved here were told that this lot was going to be left as a green space for families to use. And that's just the way it was left. That's what people were promised when they were moving here. And now they want to kind of go back on what people were told.
Homeowners also say the parkettes are well used, with children and neighbors making use of the space. The Holly Crescent location even has a community garden located behind the property. Corey Halverson is with City Parks. He says even though some of these lots are in use, that's not the only thing the city considers when identifying surplus property.
We do understand that residents in the immediate area will have been making use of these lands, but when we're looking at it from a surplus lands perspective, we're looking at the value of the land as a developed lot as well.
Residents on Holly say their need for green space outweighs any revenue from a lot sale or future taxes. They add that young families have returned to Holly and use the lots often. Older homeowners say this isn't the first time the city has tried to sell the parkette.
Well, I'm angry. I'm angry with the fact they're trying to do it. Again, that we've gone through this, and they certainly understand, but I imagine the city is cash-strapped, but that's their problem.
Holly Crescent residents have started a petition to protest the sale, while the City Realty Division is still accepting comments on parkette sales until June 4th. Xiaoli Li, TPT News.
1 week after LCBO workers in Thunder Bay held an information picket to protest ongoing labor issues and increasing private beer sales in grocery stores, employees in Quebec-Becca have followed suit. Unionized workers held a demonstration in front of the LCBO on Highway 1117 this afternoon. This time it's to draw attention to the fact that employees at small outlets such as this one often work alone. It's a practice that local union vice president Rob Mithrush says poses a number of safety risks.
We have had incidents where people have been robbed, where people have been stalked, and it's unsafe. And we deal with alcohol. There's people, it's one of those commodities that people sometimes have addictions to, and we don't know what's going to happen. And when you're working alone, putting away stock, something were to fall on you, and some of these stories you don't get someone in there constantly, so you could be unconscious for quite some time before help has arrived.
Mithrush says with the LCBO generating nearly $2 billion annually for the province, the agency can afford to ensure the safety of its employees. Workers have been operating without a contract since April 1st.
For the past 20 years, Northern Ontario Business has recognized influential women all over the North. And this year, 8 women from Thunder Bay were honored for their achievement and success. Business leaders, entrepreneurs, and even high school students celebrated 8 local women as they received their Influential Women Award. This annual event, which started in 1997, was a way to seek out and honor women who are making a difference in their community. Among the winners were the first 2 female firefighters in Thunder Bay who were given the Tradeswoman of the Year award.
Very honored, honestly. It's a pretty cool
place to be. I think it's a bigger deal than we kind of knew going through the process, and we're pretty involved with the public, and you can see some of the girls now saying, I can't wait to be a firefighter. I want to be a firefighter when I grow up, and it's pretty cool. Yeah. I've had that happen a couple times. It's pretty
nice to be a role model for those young girls, especially, to let them know that they can really do anything that they want to.
The two women sort of rose to the top is really a statement to their, not only their determination, but they fought forest fires during the summer, and really, you know, it's a cliche, but it ignited a passion, and certainly to see them bring that to fruition and to be actually brought on to the fire service in Thunder Bay and then acknowledged in this manner is one of the highlights of the day.
Bose and her team will be heading to Timmins next, where they'll be recognizing 7 more influential women who have all made a difference and contributed to the economic success of their community.